Nothing in this podcast is intended as investment advice, and the people in this podcast may hold positions in the stocks they talk about. Do not buy any investment based solely on a tip or recommendation. Please do your own research.
Hello and welcome to the Midweek Takeaway. Today we're joined by Robin Brundle, Chairman of Technology Minerals. Welcome back, Robin. How are you?
I'm very well, Phil. And how are you?
I'm very good, thanks. Very good. So obviously today we saw the news regarding Recyclus receiving ADR certification for Halo boxes. Now, I believe ADR is an abbreviation of a French phrase, which I probably can't pronounce, but it effectively translates to the European Agreement concerning the international carriage of dangerous goods by road. Do you want to tell us how significant this news is?
Very much so, Phil. Yes, it is. It's a great day. And just to add to that certification is something called a P911-1, which then certifies the boxes very much for dangerous goods and also specifically in this case for the safe transportation of lithium-ion batteries effectively in any state. So even if they're classed to be volatile or dangerous, this box that we've developed, a very special box, is able to be certified to move even dangerous batteries.
So, I mean, it always concerns me. I mean, I think that there was a story not too long ago where we saw news about, was it the Felicity Ace cargo ship on fire, resulting, and I think it actually sunk in the end with many luxury cars on board. And I think it was believed to be a result of a lithium-ion battery catching fire in one of the EVs. So could this technology be actually moved into other sectors, almost like a patented technology?
Yes, it could, because it's about control of those dangerous substances. But the element of that particular ship that you mentioned, boxes of this nature are not designed to cater for that. Because they are batteries that were already on vehicles effectively. So our boxes are very much around the end of life of the batteries or the start of life. So by definition, if we're talking, for example, to car manufacturing companies that have got electric vehicle production lines, boxes like ours could be in the production line system to make sure that everybody stays safe within the factory whilst the lithium-ion batteries are actually in our boxes, as one example. But of course, on the other end of the scale, at the end of life, you'll know from our previous discussions that our business model for Recyclus Group is predicated on UK collection of these batteries delivered to our premises for processing, and then having a number of off-takers for the residual offtake called black mass. So the reason we've created these boxes is that we've got an industry-leading box here that enables UK logistics companies to have a box that's the same size as a Euro pallet, effectively, that will contain up to 300 kilograms of lithium-ion batteries at its maximum peak. And that's 20 kilowatts an hour of batteries contained within inside. And again, they can be in a dangerous condition or in a good condition. It doesn't matter. And so the box is of a very special design. We're very proud of it. And with the certification that we have, it gives us a global commodity as well, because it will have a UN number, as well as these other ADR and P911s that we've mentioned. We will actually be able to sell to global customers.
So do you see this as a standalone business, as in producing these boxes and getting them out? I know it's part of Recyclus, which obviously is very closely tied in with Tech Minerals. So how do you see it progressing? Yeah,
very much. We're just now literally hitting the green button, of course, with this news to get into manufacturing. We've got all the jigs, the people, and the processes all very much documented. And now we're up and running. We will look to create another 100% Recyclus Group owned business to put the battery boxes into. But in the short term, we will be running this business through our Halo battery recycling company until we're up and running with a new company that's likely to have the name of Libox. So for lithium-ion, a box for lithium-ion batteries, of course.
These aren't boxes that tell lies, no?
That's right, indeed. So yes, ultimately they will be into another 100% owned subsidiary, and one production line of one shift. because it's a manual process for us at the moment, is going to generate around 1,100 boxes a year. And the boxes range, depending on what spec the end customer wants, at between £8,000 and £9,000 per box. So they're very special. It sounds like a lot of money for a box, doesn't it? But they are special because they could have to.
That sounds like a lion box, to be honest with you, Robin. If you have to pay it like that.
Well, as you just mentioned with the ship there, the consequences of not storing these batteries correctly is significantly more expensive. And what we don't want to see is lorries on motorways suddenly catching fire and causing health issues to motorists and obviously lorry drivers alike. So these boxes are very special. They have to be able to withstand up to 2,000 degrees centigrade on the inside, whilst the outer shell of the box not exceeding 100 degrees, so that it doesn't affect any other boxes or storage items that might be on the same vessel or carrier. So it is a really nice piece of engineering. It is, a lot of money, but it's actually the most competitive in the market, we believe, from our market research. There's not a lot of option out there, which is why we've designed our own. It's priced very, very effectively. But more importantly, we believe our nearest competitor is only 16 kilowatts per hour storage, whereas we're at 20, so we can actually carry more lithium-ion battery in our box. And the good news is that we expect to expand the range as we go into Q1 next year.
So in terms of it, you said 1,100 units in a year. Is there potential to sell that many? How much? What do we see as the potential for the market?
The market on this is very early doors, but certainly from a research point of view. But the number of OEM car companies that we've spoken to that are looking for a solution is very high. We've had one major logistics company that we've had detailed discussions with. They indeed, the one logistics company may actually need around 1,000 units for themselves. So we do believe that there is a good marketplace here, and we actually are optimistic that within the 12 months we will have to have either more shifts or further production lines available to upscale the volume of production.
Yeah, because on that 1,100, you're talking about turnover of between £8 and £9 million for the year.
That's correct.
What sort of margin is on these boxes? Are we talking 50%? Are we talking less? Or what's the potential? Obviously, I presume this is a big economies of scale business. So you produce 10,000 boxes, it's going to be a damn sight cheaper than producing 1,000 boxes.
Very much so, Kevin. And I'm going to try not to be a politician and swerve your question around profit margins, because clearly we've got some very sensitive. I'm going to answer it and say I'm not going to tell you.
Because I'm going to answer it by not answering it.
As long as don't start mansplaining it like Rishi Sunak did the other night.
Well, absolutely. I'm just not going to go down that road, because we've got some very sensitive, price-sensitive discussions going on around the initial supply, and so it'd be wrong of me to even begin to discuss.
So if the margin is more than 50%, Robin, just nod, because nobody can see you anyway. And if it's less than 50%, shake your head.
My screen's frozen.
Who'd have thought Kev would ask a commercially sensitive question?
Who'd have thought Robin didn't move his head 1 inch? Anyway, okay.
Let's put it this way, Kevin. We'll look forward to showing you the first year's figures anyway. Let's put it that way.
Yes, I'm guessing that. Yes, there's been a lot of probably time and effort being ploughed into getting these things developed, and also getting the stamp of approval from many different bodies that you've now managed to do. So you do have a market there that somebody cannot just jump straight into. So normally in these type of products, you would imagine the margin is going to be pretty healthy, even though you've got a couple of competitors. So, that's going to be very, very good, I think. If you can scale this business up, this business alone, without all the plants that you're putting into place and all the different tech mineral holdings of land in different places could be worth the value, the current market value, because the current market value of tech minerals is laughable in terms of what you have. You don't have to comment on that, Robin, but I'll let you.
Yes, I mean, there's not an awful lot I can add to that, is there? But what I can tell you is that in discussions with the global car companies, one thing that's coming to the fore is that, and something that we're already working on, is that in an ideal world, they would want us to be able to supply them with a box big enough to take the whole floor pan. So if you take a standard, what most people would look like on the road as an EV 4x4, let's say, you've got between 6 and 675 kilos of lithium-ion batteries in any one of those floor pans. Okay. And so by default, it needs specialist engineers to break them down to get them into sizes to go into our boxes. So one of the key things that we're looking at for next year is to do some R&D work with one of the OEMs to say, well, what happens if we turned up with a 7.5 ton flatbed with a box on it that enabled us to pick up the whole floor pan of a car and bring it back and actually process it. So there's a lot of R&D there going in, to not only our boxes, but potentially to upscale our recycling plant to be able to take the whole floor pan as well. So that's all very futuristic. As I've said to you, we've got some great requests coming in from serious global players, and we're trying to respond to them. Whether there will be anything alive in the next 12 months on that, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. And who's going to fund all of that? Again, we'll have to wait and see. So, but it's very exciting. It is a good business. We've got very, very low overheads. It only needs 3 operatives to make those number of units a year. And because we've got space initially until our Wolverhampton lithium-ion battery plant gets up to full speed with its permits and so on, we've actually based the manufacturing for these boxes on our own Wolverhampton site. So technically, we're getting better overhead absorption from that site. And we will then relocate it when we see the volume of orders for the box business and we see whether we need all of the space at Wolverhampton for the inbound and outbound lithium-ion recycling side of the business as well. So every effort's been made to give this business its maximum profit in year 1. And as you'd expect on the procurement side, we've got some of the materials are kind of 6 weeks hence. So we've made sure that we're into the buying cycle of those components to try and make sure that in the early days of any new business, that we've got continuity of supply.
I really like that idea as well of actually doing the floor pan element, because that's the amount of time you would need to, as you say, to dismantle those batteries from that to get them into the storage. If you can deliver that like a flatbed, as you say, with it, and they can just put the floor pan on, saves a lot of time and message. I mean, just how long do you think that, we've seen EV cars been around for sort of probably into the 10 years now, the sort of the first Teslas. Just how long do you think it will be before they'll be end of life on some of these vehicles?
Well, they're already here, Phil, to be frank, and even new cars, believe it or not, have end of life lithium-ion batteries because if they have a sensor a £30 sensor goes wrong that says that there's a fault with the battery, most car manufacturers, for safety, take that whole battery out and condemn it. So it's not a case of waiting for the Nissan Leaf or the whatever to reach its age. There's a whole plethora. We're getting daily requests for serious volumes of these batteries that we just can't take until these permits come through, because until we can actually get on and shred, what are we going to do with them? And there was information last week that the rest of the world in Europe, for example, on lithium-ion, have now said we are absolutely full because you can't move these batteries. So the UK has got a huge tsunami of a problem. And the UK has just recently elected a senior member at the Environmental Agency to head up this problem of lithium-ion batteries here in the UK, because the tsunami isn't coming. It's actually here. And there's so many companies reaching out to us saying, look, we've got X amount of hundreds of tons of these things, lithium-ion batteries.
Sure.
What can you do for us? So as soon as we can start shredding, we are going to be such a problem solver. But we just can't.
It must be quite frustrating. It must be quite frustrating at the moment, because you've got the call and the demand's there, but you're just waiting on the permits. But as soon as they come in, you're going to be hitting the ground running, right?
We are, Phil, and I know that your listeners will probably be very bored of listening to permits and all the rest of it. And we get that, because we're living it on a daily basis. We're pushing every button we can to try and accelerate this. We've said to the EA, look, it's completely open book. If you don't understand something, please just come in and let's work it through together in a safe, controlled environment. And whether it's the fire system, whatever it is, suppression systems, explosion systems, we've got all of that documented for them and sitting there ready to go. So, from our point of view, we're doing everything we can. We've got political engagement. We've got special compensation, if you like, not compensation, sorry, I beg your pardon. We've dispensation that we've actually been listed as a company of national importance. And, we're engaging as much as we can all the way through. And, if I had hair, I'd be pulling it out again right now.
Yeah, I mean, the good news, the silver lining in the black cloud just right now is that once this is done once, it won't be as difficult the next time. And, you're going to be putting these plants out over a period of the next number of years, and hopefully you'll have 5, 10, 15, 20 of these plants over a number of years. And as we know, with all of these new things, people are scared maybe sometimes just to make the decision because it's the unknown. It's like it's not happened before. You're a front runner in that respect. So, yeah, we have to have some patience. That said, with the potential and everything involved, the land deals, the plants that are ready to go as soon as these permits come, and now this other added revenue stream that's going to be coming on board, which I'm assuming doesn't need permits, it's just production and all of those other things, then to have a market cap, I think, of around £21 million is a bargain. I mean, it's half of what it was when you announced that these plants were going to happen, and we must be much closer to these plants about to start. So, yeah.
And don't forget that the battery box business, for example, was not included in the prospectus that we initially sent out. So this is a business that's been created after the prospectus was issued. It wasn't mature enough to be considered, viable at the time of the prospectus. So this is actually cream on top for us. The irony is that it could be the first of the 3 key businesses to be up and running in the recycling side, and there could even be a bigger irony yet, which is a discussion for another day, is we've been carefully looking at what options Recyclus Group has on the continents around the world. And some of those other countries are absolutely welcoming green technologies like this with open arms, with let's welcome you with an instant permit, an instant license, grants, premises, links to universities already in place. And so, as I said, that's a discussion for another day, but it would be the sad irony of all of this as if we actually became operational outside of the UK before we become operational in the UK. And that would be a sad.
It would be sad, but it wouldn't be surprising ultimately in a lot of these things. We deal with another company called Hydrogen Utopia, and they're having the same problem. And PHE having the same problem, Powerhouse Energy having the same problem with getting permits and things for their hydrogen technology to again move into the green economy, because it's a new situation. So, let's just hope that the bureaucracy can be overcome, because we haven't got time to wait for this bureaucracy. This is the problem, it's a problem today.
And certainly you're absolutely right in everything you've said there, as always, of course. And
not always,
but it also has commercial impact, which is why we've explored these other avenues, because we believe that with this technology, we think we've got about a 2-year head start on anybody understanding it and copying it effectively. And every month that goes by, we're eating into that, which is a bit of a negative. But it is the message that we're sending to the Environmental Agency and to the government, effectively, that, if you really want this capability and you're serious about this capability here in the UK, you've got to get on and support it. And we bang that drum. Again, I have a very high-level discussion again tomorrow. And, it will be exactly that message again, that if they want it, they've got to get on, otherwise they're going to lose it. And it has a bigger implication, because if we can't generate recycled materials for the gigafactories, if we can't get extractive minerals enough for the gigafactories, then frankly, the whole car industry and the eco-structure that goes with it are likely to move to manufacture it in countries where they can get batteries to power the future cars, because they've got to have a supply that's consistent and competitive commercially. So if the UK is serious about its automotive eco-structure, we form a major part of that, as does everybody else in the eco-structure. But you've got to have this circular part. Otherwise, there'll be such a bite out of the circular that it will become non-cost effective, effectively.
China really has a march on a lot of this stuff in terms of the EVs, I think that's for sure.
Yes, it does. And as we've all reported before, I think they still have control of around 80% of the world's lithium right now. And that's why the USA and Europe, and I believe our own British government will imminently be declaring their focus on. In fact, the government released a paper last Friday, their CRM paper, which says exactly that. It's that they're focused now on all of the critical minerals and materials that are required to support not only the automotive, but also things like defence and so on going forwards. And they've outlined their strategy, which is a live document and a working document, and one that we contribute to make sure that the UK now really does open up. Right or wrong, it also tries to make sure that we leverage our position from Brexit to make sure that we pick up the good that could be there from that. So, there's a lot of good stuff going on in the background. And it's we just can't wait to get going, basically.
Robin Brundle, Chairman of Technology Minerals, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Robin.
My pleasure.
This podcast was brought to you by Roast PR Limited. If you would like to appear on a future episode of The Sunday Roast, please email admin@thesundayroast.net.